The film begins by showing Daniel and Lucas traveling by car along a deserted road at night. During the conversation, Daniel comments that Lucas is drinking too much water and says that he will soon need to stop to urinate. Shortly afterward, Lucas asks Daniel to pull the car over so he can relieve himself. Daniel parks the car on the shoulder, and Lucas gets out to relieve himself. While he is outside, he notices that the horn will not stop honking. Not understanding the reason, he rushes back and finds the car empty. After quickly looking around and not finding Daniel, he tries to call his friend, but realizes that his cell phone was left inside the vehicle. At that moment, a loud bang catches his attention. He checks the place, but finds no one. Soon after, the radio turns on by itself, and then sounds coming from the woods make Lucas even more uneasy. When he looks ahead, Daniel is violently thrown against the windshield. Before being pulled back into the darkness, he begs for help. Unable to understand what is happening, Lucas sees his friend fall behind the car and runs to help him, but finds him lifeless. Frightened, he returns to the vehicle and sees a macabre figure standing on the side of the road. Taken by panic, he accelerates to flee, but the creature keeps appearing along the way, making Lucas believe that he is losing his sanity. Then, suddenly, it appears sitting in the passenger seat and lets out a terrifying scream. Sometime later, we meet Maddie and Tyler, an engaged couple about to get married. Before the wedding, they decide to travel by van to create memories they can tell their future children. After leaving the apartment, Tyler presents the vehicle as the couple's new home. Maddie does not really like the idea, but prefers to hide what she feels to support him. While she sets up the GPS, Tyler hangs a St. Christopher medal and says that the saint protects travelers. Maddie replies that, even so, she will continue trusting the GPS. 6 weeks later, they stop at a beach. Before continuing the trip, Maddie convinces Tyler to stop to eat barbecue. When they resume the route, they end up finding a roadblock, which causes a traffic jam and makes them lose their reservation at the campground. Losing the reservation leaves Tyler discouraged, but Maddie tries to convince him that they can find another place. He explains that the nearby campgrounds are full, so the two continue looking for a new place to stop. Later, they park the van and prepare something to eat. Seeing a family gathered at home, Maddie begins to rethink the life she chose alongside Tyler. He notices the mood and returns with a drink to celebrate the time they spent on the road. Even though she is still insecure, she tries not to show it. Tyler creates a romantic moment and makes the engagement official, giving Maddie the ring. Not knowing how to react, she remains silent, but the situation is interrupted by knocks on the vehicle. When he checks the noise, Tyler is surprised by a resident who suddenly appears, nearly scaring him to death. The man warns that they cannot remain camped on that street and gives them little time to leave before calling the police. Tyler decides to end the situation and says that they will leave the place. The fright he had ends up making Maddie burst out laughing. After the mood improves, she finally answers the marriage proposal and accepts. The celebration does not last long because the resident returns to expel them from the area, forcing the couple to continue traveling. Later, they decide to stop at a nearby hotel. Tired of seeing Tyler driving exhausted, Maddie tries to take the wheel, but he assures her that he can still continue. In the next moment, she is already driving while he sleeps deeply, showing that his resistance did not last long. While she continues along the road, Maddie stares at the ring and becomes thoughtful about the decision she made. Her distraction increases when she notices a car approaching, causing her to drop the ring. After finding it and putting it back in the box, the vehicle approaches beside the van and begins honking. The car is the same one Lucas and Daniel were in at the beginning of the story, but now it is driven by a figure wrapped in shadows, impossible to recognize. Tyler wakes up because of the shaking caused by the other vehicle's approach. Maddie realizes that the strange driver is trying to warn them about something before overtaking them at high speed. Tyler asks her to keep going, but shortly afterward the two find the same vehicle destroyed after an accident. Worried, they stop to call for help and quickly call the authorities. While Tyler calls for help, Maddie sees a man get out of the car, revealing himself to be Lucas. As she approaches, he asks for help before being pulled back by something unknown, while the doors violently slam shut. Even with Maddie's warning, Tyler approaches to help. When he checks the car, he realizes that Lucas is alone, making the situation even stranger. While Tyler tries to help him, Maddie begins to hear the same sounds Lucas had heard before. Tyler enters the vehicle and says that the ambulance has already been called, but before he can understand what Lucas is trying to say, the airbag deploys with force and hits him, finishing him off. After hearing the impact, Maddie asks what happened, but Tyler tries to reassure her and asks her to stay away. While waiting, she notices strange marks on the rear of the other vehicle and begins to hear movements coming from the forest. While investigating, she notices the presence of the creature that had already appeared before, but it disappears as soon as Tyler approaches. Shortly afterward, the police arrive at the place. Before Tyler gives a statement, Maddie asks that they leave there. He agrees and asks her to wait in the van while he talks to the officer. Alone, she feels that something is behind her, and even afraid, decides to look. The moment she gathers courage, Tyler returns and turns on the lights, showing that there was nothing there. At the hotel, Maddie reviews the van recordings, but the video ends before the accident, leaving her even more suspicious. Tyler notices her concern and tries to reassure her. Then the two leave the subject aside and spend the night together. The next morning, Tyler finds claw marks on the vehicle, and Maddie becomes frightened when she remembers that she saw the same signs on the car from the accident. He does not really believe the story, but agrees to look for someone to fix the van. Later, they arrive at a travelers' gathering, where Tyler meets Brad Fuller, his idol and host of a show about vans. While he shows the vehicle, Maddie notices that the apples had suddenly rotted. When she returns, Tyler introduces her to Brad, who notices the scratches on the van and asks what happened. Tyler says that they had a rough night, while Maddie comments about the accident. Brad indicates a place for them to stay and asks to see the inside of the van, while she decides to explore the event. During the event, Maddie receives an invitation to a prayer from a man. She tries to get rid of the paper, but notices in the mirror that he is watching, so she decides to keep it. Shortly afterward, she finds a van with posters of missing people and notices the same marks she had already seen before, becoming frightened. At that moment, Diane approaches and comments on the situation. The woman realizes that Maddie is still adapting to life on the road and says she recognizes someone who is starting out in that lifestyle. Maddie admits that it still does not feel like a home, but that she continues traveling because of Tyler. Upon discovering that they are heading west, Diane wishes her good luck and warns that the road can be scary at times. Maddie tells Diane about the accident on the road, leaving the woman worried. When she realizes that they actually stopped during the trip, Diane warns about the danger of isolated roads and asks Maddie never to stop at night. She explains that the road can end up choosing its victims. At that moment, Tyler appears and interrupts the conversation. Before leaving, Diane asks Maddie to be careful and says that she does not want to see her on a missing persons wall. Still frightened, Maddie is surprised when Tyler shows that he found someone to fix the van. Later, the two enjoy the party. Tyler goes dancing with the new friends, leaving Maddie alone. Then, she sees the entity again, but it disappears shortly afterward. Tyler returns and calls her to keep having fun. After dropping Tyler off at the gym, Maddie returns alone to the van. During the route, she notices two men in a car and becomes uncomfortable with their presence. Soon after, she nearly has an accident after being caught off guard by a truck, but continues to the vehicle. When she gets near the van, she stops for a moment and realizes that it seems farther away than before, without being able to explain how that happened. Then, the streetlights go out, and even afraid, she decides to keep moving forward. Shortly afterward, the lighting returns and Maddie hears heavy footsteps approaching behind her. When she looks, she finds nothing, but when she turns her attention back to the van, she realizes that it has changed position again. Frightened, she runs to the vehicle and quickly gets inside. Maddie tries to find out if she is still being watched by accessing the van's camera system. After verifying that there is no one nearby, she receives an unexpected video on her cell phone. The recording shows the car involved in the accident and reveals a presence inside it, which soon transforms into the entity she had already seen before. Frightened, Maddie is startled by the van alarm going off and has to stop it. Feeling that something is wrong, she checks the cameras again and realizes that one of them has stopped transmitting an image. When she restores access, she finds the entity in the parking lot, getting closer and closer to the camera. Frightened by the banging outside, Maddie removes the windshield covers to look around. Desperate, Maddie sends several messages to Tyler asking him to come back. While trying to start the van to escape, the rear doors open by themselves before slamming shut violently, leaving the vehicle in darkness. Upon noticing the creature's presence, she tries to escape, but the entity traps her using the seatbelt. As it approaches, the thing begins to suffocate her with its grotesque hand. At that moment, Maddie remembers the St. Christopher medal and struggles to reach it. When she touches the entity with the object, she manages to push it away and runs out of the van. Shaken by what happened, Maddie tells Tyler that there was someone inside the van as soon as he arrives. He enters the vehicle to check, but finds nothing. Meanwhile, she recovers the medal from the ground, and when Tyler returns, tries to explain what she saw. Maddie looks for proof in the cameras, but Tyler says that they do not record when the van is parked, making the situation even more confusing. Even without being able to show the entity's presence, she insists that it was the same thing that appeared in the accident car. Tyler tries to understand what happened and offers to look for the person, but Maddie says that she only wants to leave the place and not spend the night there. The next morning, the two resume the trip, and Maddie begins to calm down. During the conversation, Tyler reveals that his old house was never a true home, and that many people hide unhappiness behind a perfect appearance. For him, the trip with Maddie is a way to escape that past. Even having doubts, she decides to remain by his side. Later, at a stop, Tyler finds a personalized plate with Maddie's name and becomes excited about the discovery. While he looks for other items in the store, she hears footsteps around again, but finds no one. Trying to distract herself, she finds a book about haunted roads and discovers the same marks that had already appeared before. The publication explains that these signs serve as a warning to travelers about nearby danger. Even more frightened, Maddie returns with Tyler to the van. The two find the scratches on the vehicle again and become worried. Tyler cannot understand how that is possible, while she remains in shock along the way. After leaving the highway, Tyler follows a road that leads to the campground. While he takes care of some things outside, Maddie uses the moment to investigate the events online. Her search reveals other accidents marked by the same symbol and an interpretation that identifies it as a warning about a dangerous man. In several accounts, this presence is called the passenger. Then, she finds the testimony of a woman who lost her sister in a similar accident. The account says that the entity torments whoever it finds along the way, creating illusions to drive its victims mad. It is also said that it usually appears standing by the side of the road or sitting in the back seat, always in silence. Suddenly, the research is interrupted when the computer stops responding. At that moment, Tyler returns, saying that he wants to show her something. Tyler surprises Maddie by setting up an outdoor cinema for the two of them. While watching the film, the conversation ends up reaching the couple's future. Tyler says that he intends to continue living on the road and that he can get his old job back without abandoning this lifestyle. Maddie admits that she can no longer stand that routine and that she dreams of a place to call home. When he realizes that she is not even wearing the ring, Tyler asks what is happening. Maddie makes it clear that she still loves him, but explains that she has always wanted to build a real family. Disappointed, Tyler says that he can give up the van and return to the old apartment, but she replies that she does not want to end his dream. When the conversation begins to indicate that the relationship may come to an end, a loud noise on the radio interrupts the moment. As soon as the radio is turned off, Tyler tries to resume the conversation about the possible end of the relationship, but the discussion is interrupted when all the lighting goes out. Moments later, a grotesque face appears pressed against the screen, leading Tyler to check what is behind it. Even removing the cloth, he finds no one. With no time to understand what happened, sounds coming from the forest surround the couple. Maddie tries to locate the origin of the noises with the projector, but the thing continues moving around them. Then, the entity appears reflected in the film image. Before they can enter the van, it lets out a terrifying scream. The two rush into the vehicle, while strong blows echo from outside. Heavy impacts begin shaking the van, forcing Tyler and Maddie to take shelter while they wait for the attacks to cease. As soon as the silence returns, Maddie asks to leave, but Tyler realizes that the keys are gone. Armed only with a bat, he decides to look for them outside. During the search, the sound of the keys catches his attention and leads him to the nearby woods. When he shines a light on a branch, he finds the keys hanging and takes them. At the same instant, the entity appears before him and launches an attack, but disappears before reaching him. When he shines the light back on the place, Tyler realizes that the frightening figure was only a strange rock formation. At that moment, Maddie appears and calls him back to the van. After leaving the campground, Tyler asks if that was the entity that had been chasing Maddie. However, Maddie cannot explain the situation, and they soon arrive in town. At the restaurant, she shows the book she found and explains that the symbols served as warnings among road travelers. Tyler then realizes that the same 3-claw mark appeared on the van. Maddie reveals that she had already seen the sign on the accident car and believes that the entity called the passenger chose them after they helped Lucas. According to the accounts, this presence follows its victims, creating illusions and appearing in different places to torment them during the journey. Tyler believes that the mark is what maintains the connection with the creature and suggests abandoning the van to try to escape. Maddie tries to convince Tyler that abandoning the van would not solve the problem, because she believes that the entity is connected to them, not to the vehicle. Unable to make him change his mind, she steps away for a few moments. In the bathroom, she tries to regain control of the situation, but ends up crying when she realizes the seriousness of what they are facing. Upon seeing an advertisement for a restaurant in Arizona, she remembers that the place is connected to Diane and decides to look for her. Back at the table, she explains to Tyler that the woman she met on the road may help them, saying that she had given warnings about that kind of danger. Tyler suggests that they continue traveling immediately, but Maddie insists on waiting, remembering that Diane had warned her never to take the road at night. In the morning, Tyler and Maddie continue the trip and pass by another accident on the road, but this time they do not stop. As the afternoon advances, Tyler becomes worried about the lack of time, but Maddie tries to keep him calm by saying that they are almost there. Shortly afterward, a problem with the vehicle forces the two to stop because one of the tires is damaged. Even afraid, Tyler decides to solve the situation and says that if the entity appears, they will have to face it. Before leaving, Maddie takes the medal that she believes protects them. While lighting Tyler's work, she notices strange sounds around them and becomes increasingly tense. During the tire change, the tool falls, and Tyler asks for help finding it. Soon they realize that some screws have disappeared and ended up under the van. While Tyler tries to recover them, Maddie moves away upon hearing new noises, and the vehicle support begins to fail. While searching the surroundings, Maddie finds nothing and decides to return to the van. On the way, a movement catches her attention, but before she can understand what she saw, the entity appears and captures her, taking her away. Upon hearing the noise, Tyler tries to help her, but ends up trapped when the vehicle support fails and injures his leg. Even wounded, he manages to free himself and searches for Maddie, finding only the medal left behind. With no time to lose, he finishes the repair and sets out in search of her. Meanwhile, Maddie wakes up near another accident and finds a figure that seems to be Tyler. However, she realizes that something is wrong and discovers that it is the entity using his appearance. The creature overpowers her and leaves her vulnerable in the middle of the road. Shortly afterward, the real Tyler arrives driving and manages to stop in time. After rescuing her, the two continue the trip in search of Diane and end up finding other travelers. The couple looks for Diane, but the other travelers do not show interest in helping. When they find her, Maddie asks to talk and explains that something is chasing the two of them. Frightened, Diane tells everyone to protect themselves and asks them to leave the place. Even so, Maddie and Tyler insist on knowing more about the entity. Diane explains that it is an evil presence that causes accidents on the road and usually kills those who are marked by it. According to her, the creature is only having fun with the couple before finishing them off. Tyler asks why other travelers are never chased, and Diane answers that they follow the rules of the road and never stop for strangers. When asked how to destroy it, Diane admits that she does not know. Then, Maddie reveals that she managed to wound the entity when she was attacked for the first time. Upon discovering that Maddie managed to hurt the entity, Diane remembers an old case of a truck driver who managed to survive. She says that he found protection in a church dedicated to St. Christopher in Grand Junction and believes that the place may weaken the creature enough for them to have a chance against it. Not knowing any other alternative, she says that if they cannot do it, the only thing left is to seek protection through faith. Tyler asks for the route, but Diane explains that the place is on an isolated road in the desert. Realizing that the entity is approaching, she decides to lead them there and tells them to return quickly to the van. When Maddie tries to close the door, the creature attacks her and traps her hand, but she endures the pain and asks Tyler to keep driving. Diane tries to help them, but ends up being killed by the entity, making them flee. After escaping, Tyler and Maddie stop at a station, where she blames herself for having looked for Diane. Tyler comforts her, and the two decide to go to the Church of St. Christopher, believing that it is their only chance. Without knowing the exact route, they decide to follow the secondary roads. Before leaving, they promise not to abandon each other and buy items for protection. During the trip, Tyler researches the Church of St. Christopher and finds an old legend that tells how the saint discovered that he was traveling beside a demon disguised as a religious man. Upon hearing the story, Maddie believes that the entity is the dark and profane side of St. Christopher, explaining why the church is able to weaken it. During the trip, Maddie realizes that something is wrong when night falls inexplicably. When she finds signs along the way, she believes that they indicate the direction of the church, and Tyler decides to trust her. The entity tries to torment them through the radio, but they continue following until they find an isolated road. Farther ahead, they find a car blocking the road, and Tyler gets out to guide Maddie through the maneuver. After continuing on, they come across what seem to be several bodies scattered across the road. Realizing that everything is nothing more than a trap by the entity, they return to the van and continue forward. The creature manages to expel the medallions from the van and goes after Tyler, who tries to face it without success. While he buys time, Maddie finds the church and accelerates toward the place. When she gets near the entrance, she brakes abruptly, causing the entity to be thrown into the sacred grounds. Even after being hit, the entity continues moving and tries to resist. Maddie then uses the van to push it toward the church, making the creature collide with the statue of St. Christopher. Despite the damage, it still remains alive, forcing Maddie to repeat the attack. When the statue breaks, she notices a pointed part that can be used against the entity. In one last attempt, she accelerates the vehicle and manages to hit the demon, finally destroying it. The creature dissolves into flames, causing a fire that takes over the church. Maddie escapes the place, but is surrounded by smoke until Tyler appears to help her. Far from danger, the two celebrate the victory, and Maddie shows that she managed to save the engagement ring. Shortly afterward, the police arrive after Tyler activates the emergency request through the navigator. In the end, he decides to leave life on the road to build a home by her side.